All right, so just like there are four levels of sales opportunities, there are four levels of sales experience. And here's kind of how I break this down. And then I'll kind of tie them together and what that looks like. So the first level is a high ticket sales pro. So a high ticket sales pro is someone that has already generated $1 million in revenue. They have multiple years of sales experience under their belt, and therefore, typically this high ticket sales pro, it should not struggle to find or land a quality sales role, especially if they've been effective and been able to perform within this high ticket sales space. So for someone that is a high ticket sales pro, typically I can't really help them. Their KPIs and their performance should already speak for itself, right? So high ticket sales pros really don't need much help. The next level is what I call an experienced sales pro. So an experienced sales pro is someone that has sales experience out on the in the offline world, right? So whether it's you sold cars, construction, roofs, solar panel, it don't matter, door to door, medical sales, it doesn't matter, right? You have sales experience, you have multiple years of sales experience, you've generated over $1 million in generated revenue, right? So therefore, for someone that is an experienced sales pro coming into the high ticket sales space, it's actually going to be easier for you to land a sales opportunity because you do have sales experience. You have generated over $1 million in revenue. Therefore, when you hook up with or link up with a sales recruiter, you're immediately into their positive pipeline. They can, feel comfortable with placing you on a closing role. But the issue that an experienced sales pro will have is still kind of navigating the high ticket sales space. So most of you guys, again, will go through a sales training program, but it really doesn't change the fact that your sales training program did not teach you all the skills that you need to actually make the transition into the high ticket sales space. They did not give you a pipeline or teach you how to network and how to properly and effectively outreach to basically navigate the high ticket sales space in order to land a sales role. So you're still relatively new to the space. So if you are an experienced sales pro, you still need help actually navigating the high ticket sales space, in my opinion. But you should not really struggle too much to find and land a closing role based solely on your previous sales experience and your generated revenue. Now, the third stage, the third level of experience is what I call an aspiring sales pro. So you may have had previous sales experience. Again, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It doesn't matter what that looks like, but you have previous sales experience, but you just haven't generated $1 million in revenue. So you could have generated 100K, 200, 3, 4, 5, 600K, right, with some sales experience, but that still doesn't make you qualified for a closing role. But if you're an aspiring sales pro, it actually puts you in a unique situation. And this is the aspiring sales pro is actually more so like my ideal avatar, because in my opinion, you can go in both directions. You could definitely look for a closing role because you do have sales experience, but you're not going to be able to find a closing role through a sales recruiter. Can you do it on your own? That's going to be your best chance because you do have sales experience, you do have generated revenue, therefore you've got a lot of things going your way. So now if you do have preferred work experience that is directly correlated to the high ticket sales space, then that actually increases your chances of being able to land a sales role, or a closing role. So yeah, as an aspiring sales pro, you definitely have the option to start out as an appointment setter, or definitely go for a closing role. But for me, I would still always suggest starting out as an SDR because you do have the sales experience. Just play the game, right? Get your foot in the door and really get good at setting appointments. Like that's a focal point of ours, is get really good at setting appointments, because at the end of the day, let's just say an A-tier offer opens up somewhere where you're introduced, but but they're not hiring for closers. They're hiring for appointment setters. So if you get really good at setting appointments, now you can actually make the transition into an A tier offer if you have that skill set and you're willing to do it. And so that way in the next 3 to 6 months, you can actually transition into the closing role. That's a great way to get your foot in the door into that A tier offer. So if you're a sales pro that's generated the millions in revenue, whatever that looks like, imagine if an A tier offer opens up and you don't know how to set appointments, but let's just say that was a dream client or an ideal influencer that you want to work with, but you don't know how to set appointments. That can actually hold you back. So learning the skill set of setting appointments, there are a lot of benefits and a lot of perks that come with it. So if you are an aspiring sales pro, I would still suggest starting out as an SDR and then transitioning, basically getting to that $1 million in generated revenue. That way, going forward, with any offer, you can get your foot in the door with an appointment setting, or if they're hiring for a closing role, like you have those options available to you. So, and then last but not least, it's the 4th level of experience, which is a new sales pro. So this is someone that has 0 sales experience, 0, generated revenue. Whether you're a student, part-time job, full-time job, you were introduced to the high ticket sales space and you just found that, hey, you want to help people, and obviously you want to do it, remotely. You're fascinated by the idea and the concept of closing, but for you, you just don't meet industry requirements, no sales experience. So for you, I would definitely suggest, hey, don't, focus on closing roles. Can you land a closing role? Yes, you can. Are the odds in your favor? Absolutely not. So start out as an appointment setter. Get acclimated, and just get really good at, again, setting appointments so that way you can prove yourself on any offer. That way it gives you the opportunity to transition into a closing role. But regardless, those are the 4 levels of experience when it comes to high ticket sales. Now, I want you guys to think about this. So previously we talked about A tier offer, B tier offer, C tier, and a D tier offer. It's the same thing now. You've got a high ticket sales pro with an A tier offer. That match, it makes sense. So if you're a newly trained closer or a new sales pro, right, with no experience, don't think that you're going to end up on an A tier offer. It doesn't work that way. So if you play the matching game, that's going to be what actually makes a lot of bit more sense. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of the same thing with business owners. If you have a startup, which is a D tier offer that has nothing in place, but they're looking for A tier offer or A tier, players and sales reps, as far as like your high ticket sales pros. Do you think a high ticket sales pro is actually going to want to work with the startup? Typically not, because they know they're not going to make any money there. So I want you to think about that as you are proceeding and moving forward throughout the your high ticket sales journey. Is look at your level of experience and compare that to the 4 different types of offers that are out there. Hey, what are you most suitable for, right? What do you have the experience for? And it's not to say, again, it's not possible. And a lot of it has to do with mindset and really just kind of putting yourself out there and just being gritty as hell, right? Being determined as hell. Can you land a better offer than kind of, if you're a new sales pro, can you land a C or a B tier offer? Yes, you can, like 100%. But it's just something I want you guys to be mindful of. That way you're not wasting and exhausting and exerting so much focused time and energy on something that you might not be aligned with at that moment. So those are the 4 different levels of experience when it comes to high ticket sales pros, and how you might match up and pair up with an A, B, C, and D tier offer. So hope that makes sense.